Good morning. Start your day informed and ahead. Today is Wednesday, the 8th of July. I'm Angela Lagunsad Castro.
And I'm Cheska Liton-Calao. We are bringing you the perfect mix of the headlines you need and the conversations that shape your day.
From the news desk to the digital space, we have got you covered. I'm Pauline Berzosa, and welcome to Morning Matters.
Let's begin with the impeachment trial. Vice President Sara Duterte finally showed up at the Senate on Tuesday. However, the Vice President did not attend the second day of her impeachment trial. Her defense team said Duterte was at the Senate only to meet with her lawyers. She later delivered a one-sentence statement and declined to answer questions from the media.
In this bloodbath and bludgeoning, I will be blooded but unbowed. Maraming salamat.
All right, for context, what she said is from a famous poem, Invictus. We all know that, written by William Ernest Henley in 1875. And this is no stranger to us as well because her sister, Kita Duterte, recited that poem as well in front of the Hague, diba? In front of the kung saan nakakulong si President Rodrigo Duterte. On the day her father or the ICC affirmed the jurisdiction of the case on crimes against humanity. So I think kasi sabi nga nila favorite ito ng father nila ni Duterte itong poem na to, kaya siguro na ano na rin nila, no? This poem keeps them going, kumbaga, no? But of course, her appearance was expected actually yesterday. Pero ang hindi expected yung hindi siya pupunta inside the trial, no? So, nakita natin, hindi siya nag-participate in the trial. She didn't watch the trial, but she was there to appear, no? The media, and yun nga yung sinabi niyang mga linya niya. And this is all about political communication, a political narrative. And
what kind of statement
she brought it, diba?
Yeah.
Oh, it gave the media a good
something to talk
headline.
about. Yeah. But also, this was brought up during the trial. We saw Attorney Kapunan speak, and she asked nga if the defense intends, if the VP intends to attend the trial. And then, presiding officer, Chief Escudero said na impeachment inulit, because they've discussed this already before also, na impeachment rules don't require the respondent to appear before the impeachment court. She's represented by her counsel na. But again, the quotes. The quote, the one single quote.
Yeah. Ako magpapakaalan Herman ako, no, and talk about the optics of the presence of Vice President Sara Duterte, because as we saw yesterday, no, she looked so light. She sported a new haircut. She was smiling. So it was she had this very light aura around her. And some analysts were pointing out maybe because when you juxtapose this with her video of when she made those threats, those grave threats where she was quite angry, she was spitting out words that were quite intense. Yun kasi yung tatalakayan that day, on day 2 of the impeachment trial. So baka pinangunahan na niya with her appearance.
So this is me now.
Yeah, this is me now, diba? So that this will also dominate the headlines.
Yeah.
That this is the Vice President.
Exactly.
She's smiling, she's light. Although a lot of people were expecting that she would attend the trial, but not today, not yesterday, baka in the coming days naman. Makita din natin.
Yeah, as I've said kanina, di ba, she delivered nga a political narrative dito. And it depende din yun dun sa titingin, sa perspective, di ba? For her supporters, they would look at the appearance yesterday as very strong, very resilient, as always, VP Sara. But for the critics, they would say, ayan na naman siya, umiiwas na naman siya. So, it depende talaga kung ano yung perspective mo nung makikita siya doon. But yun nga, actually for me this is not a new look for me. Parang she went back to her roots. Kasi ganito talaga siya before, di ba? Ganyan, short hair siya, a little thinner. Pero hindi naman na yun oh my God, sorry.
She looks good. Yun ang importante.
Hindi yun. Parang hindi naman na importante yung weight niya dito. But she looks good, ha? Diba? Makita mo siya na after all these weeks na hindi natin siya nakikita, diba? She would come out very fresh. Diba? Hindi ako problemado. Parang ganon. Parang this impeachment trial would not break me, diba? I'm unbothered, ganon.
Even the way she was interacting with her counsel, diba? She was parang joking with Attorney Michael
Yeah.
Po. And she was even talking to the media, di ba? May parang, she also offered her condolences to one of the reporters. So, iba yung atake niya kahapon. And that surprised a lot of people. All right, but still on the impeachment trial, now on the court, a more than 2-minute clip from Vice President Sara Duterte's November 2024 online press conference was played. The video contains Duterte's controversial remarks about having President Marcos, First Lady Liza Araneta Marcos, and former Speaker Martin Romualdez killed if she herself is killed. The prosecution presented the clip to support Article 4 of the impeachment case, which covers grave threats, an alleged assassination plot, and inciting to sedition.
Accountability must apply to all or none at all. At the heart of this impeachment proceeding lies a fundamental question para sa ating lahat. Can we continue to entrust one of the highest constitutional offices to a public official who, on multiple occasions, purposely and willfully and repeatedly resorted to threats of violence against the very institutions that she swore to uphold and protect?
Their first witness, NBI Cybercrime Division agent John Mark Calilong, testified on the video's authentication and its preservation through Meta. But Duterte's defense raised repeated objections, questioning the prosecution's presentation, the witness's testimony, and the decision to play only part of more than 2-hour video.
Did the respondent utter that she already contracted a person to kill the president, the first lady, and the former Speaker of the House of Representatives?
Are you done?
Objection?
Objection, Your Honor.
Wow.
The question is misleading. There was no mention anywhere before that the video mentioned that the killing of the president.
To kill.
Yeah, there's no mention in any testimony earlier.
Ano ba exactly yung sinabi ng Vice President nung araw na yan, November 23, 2024?
Objection, Your Honor.
Well,
Vague.
I'm not yet done.
Well, Your Honor, the pauses of the prosecution are very confusing.
Kindly let the counsel for the prosecutors finish his question
Precisely,
before you
Your Honor.
object.
Okay, well, day 2 of the impeachment trial definitely took an interesting course yesterday. At ang masasabi ko lang ay, wow.
Objection to your
Objection
wow.
ba? No, so you know, very interesting, right? Kasi there were a lot of back and forths between the
Yeah.
defense and the prosecution. People are pointing out yung ginawa lamang ng defense ay object. But you know, that's also their job, right?
Yeah.
As the defense lawyers of the vice president. But it's interesting kasi is this a delaying tactic also, diba? Kasi every time the prosecution would present something from the witness, they tried to exclude, the defense tried to exclude Agent Calilong from the video, the evidence. They wanted to play the whole 2-hour press conference. And even in the way that Attorney Ligutan was phrasing his questions, the defense had objections to that. But in the end, Presiding Officer Senator Cheese Escudero mostly overruled the objections of the defense. That's why the prosecution was still able to lay out their evidence and their witness.
And Presiding Officer Cheese Escudero also said na yung prosecution can present a 2-minute video however they want, at the same way that the defense can also present a 2-hour video when they want to.
During their time.
What's interesting also during that time, during the trial yesterday, was the defense is questioning the contents of the video when in fact they were able to examine this video itself during the pre-trial. Kaya nga nag-pre-trial di ba? So yun yung parang sabi ko, well, siguro nga, dahil nga sabi nga nila, hindi naman tayo lawyer, but we've seen a lot of cases sa mga ganito, yung iba napapanood natin sa mga documentary, that is part of the, the process, di ba, na mag-object sila, etc. But the question is, tama ba yung objection? That we don't know also. But of course, there were a lot of terminologies that were mentioned there, no? Kasi parang, this is only day first, di ba, of the presentation prosecution of the article of impeachment 4. Diba? So parang they allotted 11 days for this. So yung to think na nakapag-establish na ba sila na there is real threat in that video or in that, yung statement ni VP Sara, I think wala pa sila dun. No? Parang yesterday was all about authenticating the video. Diba? Sinabi nung kanilang witness from NBI na may mga, they got the video from open source intelligence. Yan yung mga, diba? Yung mga terminologies nila, may hash code. That apparently pala, ang hash code, think of it this way na parang, diba, a person's identity would coincide with fingerprint.
Okay.
So, ang hash code pala is the digital identity. So, halimbawa, ang video ay na-edit, nag-iiba yung hash code niya. That's why it is important for them to understand na na-edit ba to, AI ba to, saan ba galing ito. Diba? Yung chain of custody din, yung pagka-edit nila, asan ba dinala, paano nadala to dito, yung mga gano'n. So parang for me, nandun pa lang sila sa stage na yon. Wala pa sila to prove kung meron ba talagang threat, meron bang hinire, wala pa doon. Abangan na lang natin siguro, kasi 11 days naman
Oo, kumbaga nagbi-build up pa lamang
Yes.
sila dun sa gusto
Oo.
nilang patunayan, the prosecution. Pero maganda din yung ni-raise ni Senator Risa kahapon. She was already asking, how is all this evidence material to the article of impeachment, which is grave threat? So ito bang video na pinapakita natin, piniplay pa ulit-ulit, where there were objections, questions, how is that material kung nag-hire ba talaga si VP ng
Yun.
assassin?
Yun.
Did she contract a hitman?
Yeah.
So, but
Wala pa
si
sila,
Atty.
as
Libutan
I've
medyo
said.
nagbigay na rin ng sagot doon,
Yes,
diba?
oo.
But that was also eventually stricken off the record.
All right, more on Vice President Sara Duterte. She visited Senator Rodante Marcoleta on Tuesday morning at the PNP General Hospital. According to the PNP Health Service, Marcoleta continues to experience chest and nape pain while his blood pressure remains fluctuating. Doctors said he may remain at the hospital until today as he continues to be monitored and has not yet been declared fit to attend court proceedings. Marcoleta is in PNP custody in connection with a non-bailable plunder case. So we have our Mojo Jazz assigned to cover what's been going on with Senator Marcoleta, and she was actually with Ses last night on the big story, and she affirmed nga na yun na nga, clinically stable but still not fit to stand for trial. Yung mga naramdaman niya on the day of the arrest, it's still there. Yung blood pressure niya parang 140/90. And then he's still not fit for transport to Sandigan Bayan. And yung bisita ni Vice President Sara Duterte was pretty much less than an hour. She arrived out around 7:30 a.m., nakaalis by 8:30. And other visitors for Senator Marcoleta were lawyers and family. But so far kasi after the arrest, yung sinabi nga ni DILG Secretary John Vic Remulla was the tests will be around 2 days. So the first day was yesterday, second day is today. We'll see what comes out of the rest of the medical examinations for Senator Marcoleta. But the 3 other co-accused, si Viray Espiritu and former Congressman Mike Defensor, they're all committed to the new QC jail in Payatas, and they're already integrated with the general PDL population.
Kakusa na sila. Nila Senator Bong Revilla. Pero kung ang question ko lang dyan, is he going to ask for, or request for hospital arrest, no?
Yun na nga.
At saka napapansin ko lang din talaga, ever since when we were kids, diba, na parang, ang tawag dito, yung path always sa mga na-arresters, ganito,
May
no?
i-raise na
Nagkakasakit,
medical issue.
parang laging may starter pack. I remember during former President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, 'di ba? Meron yung neck
The
brace.
neck brace.
Naging ano na to sa social media, 'di ba? Tapos yung wheelchair, etc. But of course siguro kung nandoon ka sa posisyon nila na maaresto ka na, makukulong ka na, hindi mo alam kung kailan ka malalaya. Tataas talaga siguro yung blood pressure mo, no? Sasakit ulo mo. But of course, you cannot use this as your shield.
Yes.
'Di ba? You still have to take accountability, di ba, doon sa mga actions mo. And
So we'll
what's
see
going to happen.
ano yung magiging result no nung examination ni Senator Marcoleta. He is 72 years old na rin
72.
naman, if I'm not
Yes.
mistaken, di ba? So
They also said naman he was given the same consideration because Manny Bonoan was also...
yes, oo.
Eh, yung may cancer
Yeah.
si
Yun.
Secretary Manny Bunuan, di ba? May prostate cancer siya. But I don't know. We'll see.
Don't go away. Morning Matters will be back after a short break.
Welcome back. You're still watching Morning Matters here on One News. Super Typhoon Inday is now inside the Philippine area of responsibility. Now, will it hit the country's landmass? Let's find out from our meteorologist, Robert Speta. Robert, good morning from Manila. What's the latest on Super Typhoon Inday?
Hey, good morning, Pauline. In magandang umaga for everybody out here across the Philippines. I know last night, by the way, you had some storms there in the NCR. That's some of the outer kind of bands out ahead of this storm, really kind of triggering up some instability. But as far as where that core of this is, you see right here, it did just enter the PAR overnight, getting that official name by Pagasa, Inday. Now, the thing is, just because it entered the Philippine area of responsibility, I really want to stress and remind everybody that does not mean it is going to be making landfall in the Philippines. So track at this time is expecting it to turn towards the north and west, take it closer to Taiwan or the southern islands of Japan, but we're still going to have this side effect influence like we've seen last night with some of these local storms out here. But another thing I really want to point out here, Pauline, is take a look at this. Winds right now in that core, 260 kilometers per hour, pressure down to 935 hectopascal. So it is still considered a super typhoon. And talking about some of these side effects here, as far as the rain, which is going to be a big issue with this, it's also the wind field. This is the forecast here from Balisakan. And just check this out. End to end, about 1,000 kilometers wide of tropical storm strength winds with this super typhoon. So we always talk about the inner core where those max winds are, but it's a very large wind field, which is why already Signal Force 1 has been issued for some of the Batanes Islands, northeastern areas of Luzon, extending all the way down through Isabela under Signal Force Warnings 1 right now. And I would anticipate those to be up to 2 or 3, especially across the Batanes Islands out here, Pauline.
Well, Robert, Super Typhoon Inday will not be making landfall in the Philippines, but can it still enhance the southwest monsoon, or what we call the habagat?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's going to be one of the big things with this storm system. It's not just the center of this, which, pretty big impacts, by the way. I really want to quickly mention this for areas outside of the Philippines. Taiwan, there's some spots there, 1,000 millimeters of rain possible with it. Over towards Okinawa, the southern Japanese islands, you can see 200 kilometer per hour winds. Of course, for us, there's those signal force warnings. But what I want to take you to is, that enhanced monsoon you're asking about, because that is going to be the biggest issue out here across the Philippines. As this storm pulls towards the north, think of it as you're going fishing and you throw out that line and you hook something. Well, it's hooking the southwest monsoon and it's basically feeding this in kind of this river of moisture. And we've seen that enhanced habagat many times before. But I think one of the big issues with this over several days, 3 to 4 days, starting on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and into Monday, we're going to see what we call training out here. And it'll be one round of showers after another, especially in places like Mindoro, extending back towards Subic, even into Region 1, and of course also including here into the Metro Manila area. Some of those poor drainage areas, low-lying areas are going to be looking at that threat of flooding. Pauline, one thing though, and I'm sure you can agree with me here, is that we do need the rain out here. The Angat Dam down near critical levels, but too much in a short period of time, of course, can cause some major issues here, Pauline.
Well, Robert, if you have a super typhoon this strong and this intense, how should residents, especially in northern Luzon and coastal areas, prepare?
That's the good question. And I think the number one thing out here is those kind of tropical storm strength winds. It's going to be enough to toss light objects around. But we're not going to be seeing super typhoon strength conditions in northern Luzon. I really want to continue to stress that. Actually, this is a good image here because you can see here's Manila, of course. We're looking towards the north and you see our storm off here. Now, those winds are definitely going to pick up across Apari, Santa Ana. As I mentioned, we could see signal force 2 or 3 in a few of those spots there. But I think as far as further towards the south, to prepare across the west coast, be ready for that flood potential. Of course, listen to your local emergency managers out here. If you know you're in a flood-prone spot, if you've seen flooding in those enhanced habagats before, this could be that type of a setup out here. And also, your classic kind of preparations. Make sure everything's charged. Make sure you check on your neighbors, your friends, and let them know where this storm is going. And also let them know where it's not going, that we're not expecting a super typhoon to make landfall out here in the Philippines, Pauline.
All right. Well, thank you very much for those reminders and those updates. We'll speak to you again later on the show. That was meteorologist Robert Speta. Now, meanwhile, several local government units have suspended face-to-face classes today due to the effects of Super Typhoon Inday. In Malabon City, face-to-face classes at all levels in both public and private schools have been suspended. Navotas City and Caloocan City have also canceled in-person classes from preschool to senior high school in both public and private schools. Meanwhile, authorities in Canlaon City, Negros Oriental have ordered the suspension of face-to-face classes at all levels in both public and private schools. Now, the prosecution team expressed satisfaction with how the second day of the impeachment trial unfolded. And for more on this, let's bring in mobile journalist Amy Atienza. Amy, good morning. Ano nga ba ang naging overall assessment ng prosecution team sa day 2 ng trial?
Yes, tama ka dyan, Polino. Satisfied ang House Prosecution Panel kasama na rin ang kanilang counsels dahil nga doon sa nangyaring second day of the impeachment trial laban kay Vice President Sara Duterte. Pero kung babalikan lang din natin yung nangyari, no, narinig natin napakarami din ng objections na ginawa ng defense team habang nagkakaroon ng manifestation and presentation ang prosecution, no, pagdating dito sa article number 4 o yung kaugnay ng grave threats and destabilization ni Vice President Sara Duterte laban nga doon sa gobyerno. Pero ang nakita kasi dito ng prosecution team ay parang kumbaga nakascore pa daw sila ng points. Yung verbatim nating narinig from the lead presenter, Congressman Lawrence Defensor, na they scored points dahil nabigyan pa rin sila ng pagkakataon na mapanood nga yung videos kaugnay nitong grave threats o yung pagbabanta na binibigay ni Vice President Sara Duterte. Pero ngayong araw, inaasahan din natin na magkakaroon pa ng cross-examination with the same witness na nakita natin kahapon, who is the NBI Senior Agent for Cybercrime Division Team, John Marcoleta, para nga mas makita pa yung authenticity at yung verification pagdating dito sa grave threats ni Vice President Sara Duterte. Nakita rin natin yung mga documents, kahit mismo yung screenshots ng request niya for the preservation of the actual press conference that happened on November 23, 2024. At yun daw mismo yung mag-verify na this is a legitimate statement made by Vice President Sara Duterte against President Bongbong Marcos, First Lady Liza Marcos, and even former House Speaker Martin Romualdez. Pauline?
Amy, ano naman ang nasabi ng prosecution panel sa pagdalo ni Vice President Sara Duterte kahapon, ano? At may plano nga ba talaga sila na tawagin siya bilang hostile witness?
Yes, if we look back during the first day of the impeachment trial, Pauline, narinig natin na the House Prosecution Panel is really hoping that Vice President Sara Duterte would show up here in the Senate for her impeachment trial. Tapos kahapon, nung around past 12 in the 12 noon, ay nakita na nga dito si Vice President Sara Duterte, pero we got the confirmation with her spokesperson, defense spokesperson, Attorney Michael Poa, na pupunta nga lang daw si Vice President Sara Duterte dito para sa isang pagpupulong at hindi raw para dun sa trial. Kaya ang sinasabi dito ng ilang miyembro ng prosecution team ay dapat nga daw humarap mismo sa trial si Vice President Sara Duterte. They said this is the perfect time para nga daw ma-clear out lahat ng questions and masagot niya yung mga allegations laban sa kanya, lalo na kaugnay nitong 4 na articles of impeachment. Verbatim din, sinabi ni Representative Rene Ko na siyang impeachment prosecution spokesperson na kung i-judge nga din daw kasi yung performance ng defense team during the first day of the impeachment trial, siya rin daw talaga ay magko-confer sa kanyang team for a meeting. At sinabi din mismo ni House Prosecutor Terry Ridon na hindi naman daw cheerleader si Vice President Sara Duterte para magbigay lang ng suporta sa kanyang defense team para sa kanyang impeachment trial. At totoo rin naman, Pauline, na inaasahan nga din natin na magkaroon ng written request itong House Prosecution Panel at ang Counsel for the Prosecution para nga ma-summon itong si Vice President Sara Duterte pagdating dito sa allegation on a grave threats and destabilization against the government.
Okay, thank you very much for that report. That was mobile journalist Amy Atienza. Now, security remains tight at the Senate as the impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Duterte continues. And for the latest on the ground, let's bring in our mobile journalist, Ivan Tarinque. Ivan, kamusta ng sitwasyon dyan?
Pauline, the security around Senate remains tight here in Pasay as the impeachment trial against Vice President Sara Duterte is on its third day. And the PNP, sinabi na nila, up until Wednesday, naka-heightened alert yung mga otoridad dito nga sa Senate. Yung paghahanda nga yan nila kung sakali man na magkaroon ng pagdating or ng mga anti- at pro-impeachment groups dito nga sa labas ng Senado. Pero so far, Pauline, ang nakikita natin most of the days na nandito nagmamonitor tayo ay parang anti-impeachment at mga taga-suporta ni Vice President Sara Duterte yung dumarating. Pero in terms of numbers, Polino, konti naman sila compared dun sa unang araw na dumating na mga pro-impeachment. No? So far, controllable pa naman or under control pa naman ng kapulisan, ng mga authority ang mga dumarating dito. And kasabay nga niyan, Polino, they will have their own spots outside the Senate premises, no, kung sakali man dumating sila at magdadaos nga ng programa. Pero so far, Polino, iikot ko kayo saglit dito sa labas ng Senate. Makikita natin itong Jokno Boulevard, sarado na ito ngayon for mga private vehicles. Pero late na sila nagsara, around 8:30 na sila nagsara compared dun sa 7 a.m. na sarado. No? Dahil yesterday, nagsarado sila ng mas maaga dahil nakakuha ng tips at ng intel yung mga otoridad na magkakaroon nga ng pagkilos protesta sa harap ng Senado. Pero so far sa ngayon, hindi naman natuloy yung kilos protesta na yon at ngayon sarado na ito. So pinapayuhan yung mga kapatid natin na motorista na sa Macapagal Boulevard muna dumaan bilang alternative routes. Pero so far, Polino, sa ngayon, nananatiling payapa at peaceful pa naman yung sitwasyon dito sa labas ng Senate, pero yung security remains on high alert. Pauline.
Okay, thank you very much for that update. That was mobile journalist Ivan Tarinque. But don't go away because Money Talks with Kathy Yang is up next to get you ahead of the markets. I'm Pauline Verzosa. Stay tuned to One News.
Welcome to Money Talks. I'm Kathy Yang, your intel on the Philippine markets and the economy. The Philippine Statistics Authority is out any moment now with its May labor force survey. The data covers the unemployed and the underemployed. To recall, more Filipinos were unemployed in April at 4.7%. It is the highest April unemployment rate since 2022. Let's listen in.
Ng May 2026 Labor Force Survey. Ang pagkalap ng datos para sa Mayo 2026 Labor Force Survey ay ginawa sa loob ng 18 araw mula ika-8 hanggang ika-28 ng Mayo 2026. Noong Mayo 2026, 11,133 ang total sample households na na-survey ng Philippine Statistics Authority. Samantala, 45,076 naman ang total sample households na na-survey noong Abril 2026 at 11,083 households noong Mayo 2025. Sa populasyon ng 15 taong gulang pataas, ang bilang na nasa labor force o mga individual na employed o unemployed ay nasa 52.13 million nitong Mayo 2026. Ito ay mas mababa kumpara sa naitalang bilang noong Mayo 2025 na nasa 52.32 million, ngunit mas mataas naman kumpara sa bilang noong Abril 2026 na nasa 51.30 million. Ang labor force participation rate noong Mayo 2026 ay nasa 63.8%. Ito ay mas mababa sa naitalang labor force participation rate noong Mayo 2025 na nasa 65.8%, ngunit mas mataas naman kumpara sa naitala noong Abril 2026 na nasa 62.7%. Noong Mayo 2026, ang employed persons o bilang ng mga may trabaho o negosyo ay naitala sa 49.63 million. Ito ay bumaba ng 663,000 kumpara sa naitala noong Mayo 2025, ngunit tumaas naman ng 738,000 sa bilang ng employed noong Abril 2026. Ang employment rate noong Mayo 2026 ay nasa 95.2%. Ito ay mas mababa kumpara sa employment rate na naiulat noong Mayo 2025 na nasa 96.1% at noong Abril 2026 na nasa 95.3%. Ang bilang ng unemployed persons o mga nasa labor force na walang trabaho o negosyo noong Mayo 2026 ay nasa 2.5 million. Ito ay mas mataas kumpara sa naitalang bilang noong Mayo 2025 na nasa 2.03 million at noong Abril 2026 na nasa 2.41 million. Ang unemployment rate ay tinatayang nasa 4.8% o 48 sa bawat 1,000 na individual na nasa labor force ang walang trabaho o negosyo noong Mayo 2026. Ito ay mas mataas kumpara sa naitalang unemployment rate noong Mayo 2025 na nasa 3.9% at noong Abril 2026 na nasa 4.7%. Ang bilang ng underemployed o mga employed na nagpahayag ng pagnanais na magkaroon ng karagdagang oras ng trabaho o magkaroon ng karagdagang trabaho o kaya magkaroon ng bagong trabaho ng mas mahabang oras ay naitala sa 6.04 million noong Mayo 2026. Ito ay bumaba ng 564,000 kung ikukumpara sa bilang ng underemployed noong Mayo 2025 at bumaba rin ng 1.37 million kumpara sa bilang ng underemployed noong Abril 2026. Ang underemployment rate noong Mayo 2026 ay nasa 12.2%. Ito ay mas mababa kumpara sa naiulat noong Mayo 2025 na nasa 13.1% at noong Abril 2026 na nasa 15.2%. Kung atin namang susuriin ang mga datos ayon sa kasarian ng labor force participation rate ng mga kalalakihan ay nasa 74.6% noong Mayo 2026. Ito ay nanatiling mas mataas kumpara sa labor force participation rate ng mga kababaihan na nasa 52.9%. Ang employment rate ng mga kalalakihan ay naitala sa 95.3% noong Mayo 2026. Ito ay bahagyang mas mataas kumpara sa employment rate ng mga kababaihan na naitala naman sa 95.1%. Sa kabilang banda, ang unemployment rate ng mga kalalakihan ay naitala sa 4.7% noong Mayo 2026. Ito ay mas mababa kumpara sa unemployment rate ng mga kababaihan na nasa 4.9%. Sa mga employed na kalalakihan noong Mayo 2026, 13.6% sa kanila ay underemployed. Higit na mas mataas ito kumpara sa underemployment rate ng mga kababaihan na nasa 10.2%. Kung ang datos ng mga pangunahing sektor ang ating susuriin, noong Mayo 2026, ang services sector pa rin ang nananatiling bumubuo sa may pinakamalaking bahaging ng labor force na nasa 61.8% share. Kasunod dito ang agriculture sector na may 19.9% share at ang industry sector na may 18%.
At the Philippine Statistics Authority reporting on the labor force survey for May. Just to recap, May unemployment came in at 4.8%. That is slightly higher than the 4.7% in April. Underemployment came in at 12.2%, lower than the 15.2% in April. In other news, a new study shows the Philippines has work to do before it can support more advanced artificial intelligence applications. A study by Ookla found the country's 5G network falls short of some of the minimum requirements for AI tasks such as augmented reality. The Philippines recorded a median 5G upload speed of 11.97 megabits per second. This is well below the 20 megabit requirement for AR applications. The country also ranked 14th out of 22 markets for upload bandwidth allocation. The study also found local telcos devote only a small share of their 5G capacity to uploads, which are crucial for AI services. The Philippines also ranked 14th in multi-server latency or network responsiveness behind Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, and Indonesia. According to Ookla, this makes the country less suited for more demanding AI applications such as voice AI. Still, it said the Philippines continues to pursue its digital ambitions as telecommunication companies expand data centers to support future AI and cloud services. Meantime, the government is hoping to sign a framework agreement under the U.S.-led Pax Silica initiative before the end of the year. The Philippines joined the U.S.-led initiative in April to help strengthen technology supply chains. Under the program, the country plans to develop a 1,618-hectare AI native industrial hub in New Clark City, Tarlac. Finance Secretary Frederick Go said the project could attract semiconductor and advanced technology manufacturers, with Taiwan-based Foxconn expected to serve as its anchor investor. He added the initiative complements the development of the Luzon Economic Corridor, with Canada also pledging a $2 million grant to support the project. The Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas has summoned several banks and e-wallets to explain why they haven't cut transfer fees yet. BSP Deputy Governor Mamerto Tangonan told reporters yesterday a meeting is scheduled this week to hear firms that appear to be non-compliant with the central bank's circular. Under BSP Circular 1238, transfer fees must be reasonable, cost-based, and transparently disclosed. The circular took effect on July 4. Since last week, banks and e-wallets have waived or cut transfer fees. InstaPay and PesoNet transfers on BPI, Land Bank, and Union Bank are now free of charge. RCBC offers free InstaPay transfers for the first 30 transactions of the month. GCash and Maya lowered PesoNet transfer fees from 15 pesos to 10 pesos. Union Bank on July 7 became the latest among financial institutions to scrap fees for InstaPay transfers following Land Bank, BPI, GCash, Maya, and RCBC. Memorandum Circular 1238 provides that service fees for electronic payments should be reasonable, transparent, and proportionate to the actual cost of providing the service. For more, we're joined by Union Bank Digital Retail Segments and Channels Marketing Head, Kenneth Mariano. It's good seeing you, Kenneth. Welcome to the program.
Good morning, Kathy. Thanks for having me here.
You know, 24 hours ago, Finance Secretary Dec Go broke the news himself on this program that Union Bank is the latest to go transfer fee free. So how is the customer uptake going so far?
I think the response has been very positive. This is not the first time that we have actually waived or provided a discounted fee. Maybe it's not widely known that in the past, we have waived our fees when digital usage was becoming more essential during pandemic back in 2020, and we extended our waived fees actually way longer than most banks. And in 2024, we came back with discounted fees, especially for low-ticket transfers or transactions. And therefore, it's not surprising that the uptick we're seeing now is happening again. But I think more so this time, given that it's a no conditions attached full waiver on InstaPay person-to-person transfers to other banks and e-wallets.
Well, what have you learned in that journey from, well, way back when you were already lowering those transaction fees in terms of the customer uptake, perhaps also the volumes, in fact, and what is projected now that it's fully waived?
I think one of the key learnings for us is that while zero fees or more affordable transfer fees bring them into the digital economy or getting them started on doing digital transactions, what keeps them transacting, what keeps them staying with the bank or using the app is really the trust on the reliability, on the convenience that the bank can continuously offer. And that has become our constant challenge and also responsibility that we're taking very seriously to ensure that the experience continues to be delightful for these customers. So lowering the fees or waiving the fees is just the start. It's really continuing to delight their experience and making sure that we remain trustworthy as far as app reliability, bank reliability is concerned.
Just to check, as you've complied and have been compliant, did Union Bank get summoned to the Bangko Sentral for clarification of the meeting on transfer fees?
As far as I know, and as of this hour, no. And I think that's because we did decide to move ahead. We're one of the early movers on this one. Again, we're just continuing our journey, trying to be consistent in ensuring that we continue to provide accessible, affordable digital banking services to our customers. And we're happy to be taking that lead in the market.
The waiving of the transfer fees, zero fees, what was the key motivation for that then, if you were to choose from a list? Is it primarily because in response to the BSP's regulatory direction under Memorandum Circular 1238? Or is it because of the competitive pressures that you've seen as you've already waived fees from years before today?
It's a very good question. Compliance is important, definitely. And we're happy to see, the entire industry trying to shift towards zero fees or more affordable digital transfers. But what's more important for us really is the customer value and customer experience that this will bring about. The way we see it, the lowering of the fees or the waiving of the fees is part of a broader digital adoption strategy and customer relationship strategy, because this will allow us to understand better our customers with the information that we'll be able to get from their growing payment and transfer transactions, and that will allow us to really serve them with highly relevant products at the right time, in the right form, and therefore creating longer-term customer value and also value for the bank.
So how are you understanding your customers now that you mentioned your customers, very important stakeholder as the BSP and the DOF, both agree that the lower digital fees are supposed to bring in more inclusion for everyday payments done by the small merchants. What are you learning so far?
We're learning about how important this is, especially for those who are working on very tight operational margins, as well as those doing transfers and payments very frequently or in high volumes. And when you see them becoming part of the formal digital economy, if all the banks and e-wallets as well as payment network would really ramp up the acceleration of bringing them on board through lower or waived fees, it becomes more beneficial for the customer and for us banks, for the financial institutions. It allows us to have a better picture, understanding of who our customers are, because the real value for us comes after the whole waiving. It's being able to provide them the solutions, the products and services that are truly meaningful for them based on the transaction behavior that we're seeing, especially now that we have democratized transfers. We do expect more transactions to happen, more payments to happen, and therefore providing a richer data trail for us to be able to serve them the right deposit products, credit cards, loans, investment products for greater and longer term customer value.
Could you perhaps visualize for us just very quickly the kind of customer that benefits fully, say the small merchants and the micro enterprises from way back? How will they benefit? Have you worked out the numbers of the kinds of savings they'll have to be able to keep because you're not taking it away from them?
That's true. So when you talk about, for example, a small business owner, or let's say a sari-sari store owner, 15 peso fee is a lot, especially if you aggregate them or accumulate them. And that means a lot to someone who's not really earning much. And that's also true for our working class, for the middle income Filipino customer. And doing this waiving of fees allows them to actually rechannel the funds that they have saved from not paying these prohibitive fees to something that's more productive and more useful for them in the long run, and allows them to save funds more. What we did find out that the more they use, the more they transact, the more they use their app, allows them to increase their savable fund, which in turn gives them the opportunity to avail of more higher value products with us, whether it's credit, deposit, investments, or loans.
All right. Well, thank you so much for those insights. 24 hours into that full waiver from Union Bank. Kenneth Mariano of Union Bank. You're watching Money Talks. Coming right up, DepDev Secretary Arsenio Balisakan says upper middle income country status is just the starting line. An excerpt of my interview with him and thought leaders in just a few minutes. And it's day 3 of the impeachment trial against Vice President Sara Duterte. Our mobile journalist, Amy Atienza, joins us live from the Senate. Keep it here on One News. Amy, good to have you with us. Magandang umaga. Si Cathy to. Hi, are you a phoner? Phoner siya, no? Got that. We'll see you later. Oh, there you are. I can see you. Thank you so much. Welcome back to Money Talks. I'm Kathy Yang. The Senate Impeachment Court is set to resume this afternoon for day 3 of the impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Duterte. On day 2, the prosecution team expressed satisfaction with how the proceedings unfolded. For more on that, we go live to our mobile journalist, Amy Atienza at the Senate. So, Amy, how is the prosecution team assessing day 2?
Yes, Kathy, the prosecution team is very satisfied with what happened during the impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Duterte yesterday. And as we can remember, no, kahapon ay nakita na rin natin si Vice President Sara Duterte dito mismo sa Senate premises. But when we stumbled upon defense spokesperson Attorney Michael Powa, ang nasabi niya dito ay dadalo nga daw si VP Sara sa isang pagpupulong lamang or sa isang meeting at hindi daw magpapakita doon sa mismong trial proper. Yun naman ay yung nakita din ng prosecution panel na kinakailangan nga din daw sana na magpakita si Vice President Sara Duterte dahil para sa kanila, this is the perfect time para nga daw masagot na ni Vice President Sara Duterte yung mga allegations sa kalakip ng 4 na articles of impeachment na tatalakayin dito sa trial. At nakausap din natin no, si prosecution spokesperson Representative Reneco na sabi niya no na kung i-judge din daw kasi yung performance ng defense team during the first day of the impeachment trial, dapat din daw talaga na mag-confer no, sa team niya dahil parang nakikita niya na kinakailangan din talaga ng tulong ni VP Sara. Pero yun din yung napansin natin at napakinggan natin doon sa mismong trial proper kahapon kung saan sinabi ni Private Prosecutor o ni Counsel for Prosecution, Attorney Lorna Capunan, na plano nga raw nila na magbigay ng written request para isummon si Vice President Sara Duterte para masagot itong first allegation or first article na tinatalakay nila ngayon, which is relating to the assassination plot, grave threat, and also inciting to sedition of Vice President Sara Duterte against the government. Kung babalikan lang din natin, Kathy, no, yung nangyari kahapon sa mismong trial, medyo narinig natin na may marami-rami yung naging objections ng defense team pagdating dito sa manifestation at presentation of evidence ng prosecution team. Pero nade-deny din naman yan also the reason why naging satisfied yung prosecution team doon sa naging resulta o yung kinalabasan mismo ng ikalawang araw ng impeachment trial laban nga kay VP Sara. Kahapon nagkaroon din ng konting disagreements with the presentation of the video of the press conference dated November 23, 2024 kung saan nga nagkaroon daw ng statement itong si VP Sara tungkol sa pag-hire ng assassin para nga ma-assassinate si Pangulong Bongbong Marcos. At ang naging debate dyan ay ang defense team pinupush for everyone to watch the 2-hour and 26-minute video of the press conference habang ang sinasabi naman nitong prosecution ay yung 2 minutes and 18 seconds na video na lang ang ipakita dahil hindi naman daw ito mapuput out of context kahit papano. At yun nga, naging let's say panalo yung prosecution team pagdating doon dahil nga nabigyan sila ng pagkakataon ng Senate Impeachment Court na maipakita at mapanood yung mga videos in relation to the grave threat given by VP Sara to President Bongbong Marcos, to First Lady Liza Marcos, and even former House Speaker Martin Romualdez. Kathy?
Maraming salamat sa update, our mobile journalist, Amy Atienza. DEV Secretary Arsenio Balisakan says the Philippines' upgrade to upper middle income country status is just the starting line. This is where investments get a leg up to grow fast enough to create quality jobs. But this, he says, requires first and foremost a return to good governance. Here's an excerpt of my interview with him on Thought Leaders.
This is a milestone. It's not your final destination. There are still many steps, and the big challenge for us really is improving the quality of jobs that are available, so that our earnings will be much higher, and our people would not have to migrate outside the country, to have a decent job. If investments can grow fast enough here, quality jobs could be generated.
Speaking of those steps and possibly the missteps coming into the World Bank definition of an upper middle income status, and they did make the assessment between 2021 to 2025.
Yeah.
So that puts us at 5.8% of GDP. We're far below that right now. First quarter GDP is at 2.8%, and the analysis is it could be perhaps a lot slower or within that range. So how possibly can we qualify for upper middle income status and at the same time work back on those missteps to get to qualitative job growth and also qualitative growth going forward, given that we've been so pushed back by, first of all, the flood control corruption scandal and the after effects of that going into the oil shock?
Yeah. Well, this number, from low income to lower income to upper income, took, as you said, it's a long climb, no? But if you look closely at that period, there were missteps, and severe ones. There were severe ones like the COVID, when the economy contracted by almost 10%, right? And that it took. We lost 3 years as a result of that. 3 years of opportunity of growth. So there were missteps, but over the long time, we managed to continue the growth, and that's what we are seeing now. It's the kind of missteps that we have. I don't think that they were as serious yet as the COVID, when the economy contracted by almost 10%.
But to be fair, the crises that we've faced before, they're not self-inflicted. They were
True,
a shared challenge, if you will. But this one, the flood control corruption scandal, had been very much self-inflicted, something that could have been avoided. So in that sense, could it be a worse risk that we face, de-anchoring us from all our growth and human development goals?
Yeah, as I said, there is that issue brought to us the importance of strengthening our institutions, particularly accountability. But what has, I think that what's the bad thing that really happened is, as we were still trying to navigate that, then here came the Middle East conflict, which led sharply into sharp increase in inflation, and that compounded the problems that we are facing from the infrastructure scandal. So this combination of things really made it, what it is in our, especially in the first and perhaps even in the second quarter. I see it as a process of cleansing, a process of getting back good governance, or at least strengthening good governance and accountability. And if that's the way the public will perceive it, it can even make us stronger, not weaker, because you're addressing the issue, you're facing it frontally and do something about it.
Catch the full interview with DepDev Secretary Arsenio Balisakan on Thought Leaders, 9 p.m. Philippine time this Thursday, July 9 on One News and its social media channels. The United States has renewed attacks against Iran for attacking 3 vessels transiting the Strait of Hormuz. The U.S. Central Command says its attacks in Iran is a response to Tehran's demonstrated aggression on the Hormuz Strait, which Washington sees as a violation of the ceasefire. Global oil prices edged up as a result of the attacks. Brent crude trading at $76 a barrel, up 2.6%. West Texas Intermediate sitting at $72, up 2.7%. Let's take a quick check on the Philippine peso and see how it's opened this Wednesday. It is weaker, 61.55 to the dollar. The peso yesterday strengthened by 5.6 centavos to close at 61.435 against the greenback. The local stock market extended its winning streak due to easing inflation. PSEI rose 23 points or 1/3% to close at 6,247. Despite investors cheering June's inflation print, PhilStock's Financial notes that trading remained tepid. Net value turnover thinned to 5.33 billion pesos. The broader all-shares index climbed 0.1%, with the local counters mostly losing ground. That is it for Money Talks. I'm Kathy Yang. Have a great day ahead.
Good morning mga kapatid, I'm Angela Lagunsad Castro. NBI Senior Agent John Mark Calilong is set to face cross-examination from the defense panel on Day 3 of Vice President Sara Duterte's impeachment trial. Calilong was the prosecution's first witness on Day 2. He testified on the authentication of Duterte's November 2024 online press conference video, the one containing her controversial remarks about having President Marcos, First Lady Liza Araneta Marcos, and former Speaker Martin Romualdez killed if she herself is killed. The prosecution presented the clip to support Article 4 of the impeachment case, which involves grave threats, an alleged assassination plot, and inciting to sedition. But the Duterte defense repeatedly objected to the prosecution's presentation, including the authentication process and the decision to play only part of the more than 2-hour video. On Day 3, the defense is expected to question Calilong on his forensic examination, the video's preservation, and the basis for its authentication.
And now to help us understand the legal weight of the first witness's testimony, we are now joined by law professor and constitutional law book author, Attorney Jennifer Reyes. Attorney Jen, welcome back to Morning Matters.
Hi, good morning, ladies. It's nice to see you again, although virtually this time.
Good morning.
Always good to have you here on the show, Attorney. But before we talk about why the testimony of the first witness is very important, I wanted to get your thoughts on Day 2 of the impeachment trial. It was quite eventful, to say the least. But what stood out to you? What were the highlights for you on Day 2?
Oh, definitely the now famous or infamous objections of the defense counsel for VP Duterte. But it was quite an exciting day, right? An exciting day for the prosecution and the defense. And we can truly see that both parties or the counsels of both parties are well prepared. But that particular moment, yung batuhan or pagdedebate ni Attorney Narvasa and Attorney Ligutan, yun ang naging kaabang-abang sa mga manonood. And para na rin sa akin.
Well, taking off from what you said about the objections, the defense objected repeatedly. What was the defense was trying to do here or at that particular moment para mas ma-educate natin yung public, diba? Is this a normal process? Go ahead.
Yes, po. This is a normal process, even in ordinary court proceedings. Of course, every lawyer can object to the opposing counsel, but of course, this is a double-edged sword, in my opinion. You know, you have a right to object to what the opposing counsel is saying, and of course, if the purpose of the defense is to stall perhaps or to delay somehow the trial, then you will be successful with respect to that. However, if you will see, it can also quite, become, for lack of a better term, irritating in a sense that the focus is being removed from the substantial questions which the witness needs to answer. So it's normal. However, if such right is of course not used properly, then it can backfire. Ang magiging opinion dyan, karamihan siguro ng ating mga kababayan, syempre kahit papaano, maka-question kung bakit object na lamang ng object.
What was stopping, or what were the grounds for Senate presiding officer, rather, Cheese Escudero, for not saying, it's out of order, it's too much?
That is a good question. And I would like also to take this opportunity, of course, to first to commend Senator Cheese Escudero as the presiding officer. We all, witness that he truly has the, what do you call this? The sufficient or the ample knowledge with respect to this kinds of proceedings. However, yun lang ang medyo nakulangan ako, Miss Angela. Ang nangyari kasi kahapon, nung una exciting eh. 'Di ba? Nung first part, nagbabali-taktakan, pero it became tedious during the latter part na itong defense na yung co-control nung flow ng trial. So I expected Senator Cheese Escudero to have, been more proactive in reminding the counsels of both parties not to abuse the said right to object to such statements by the adversary or by the opposing counsel. So there's still room for improvement. I hope, the Senate team or the committee handling these rules will realize that mahalaga itong prosesong ito, pero baka mabore. Baka maano na yung mga tao kasi biruin nyo, unang witness pa lamang ito, napakatagal na. We have more than 90 trial dates for this proceeding. So dapat ay maging proactive. Sila dapat ang mag-set ng tone, sila dapat ang mag-set ng boundaries at rules at hindi lamang parang mere observer sa debate ng mga abogado.
That's interesting, attorney, because yesterday we also spoke to a political strategist, Alan Herman, and he was saying this impeachment trial is actually a battle for attention. And that is the challenge for the prosecution, to keep this trial interesting, to keep it in the national conversation, because if it gets too tedious, it gets too boring, then that would be advantageous to the defense. But now let's talk about the first witness. Was presented yesterday, NBI agent John Mark Calilong. How important was his testimony, and what did you think of the strategy of the prosecution?
It was a great strategy. First off, I now know the reason why they opted to present the fourth article of impeachment, the alleged grave threats of VP Duterte. Why? This is a strong opening argument because itong artikulong ito, hindi mo kailangan ng madaming witnesses dito. Hindi mo kailangan ng madaming dokumento. The video itself, it actually speaks for itself, right? And in addition to that, the prosecution efficiently chose to present not just an ordinary witness, but an expert witness to prove that the said video was not tampered with, it was authentic, it was not, it was even unadulterated, to the point of establishing that ito talaga yung mga sinabi ni Vice President Duterte sa naturang video. So it set the tone already to the public that the prosecution is not here to play games. The prosecution is utterly serious in proving to the Filipino people that their arguments are strong. Na ang kanilang unang witness ay hindi lamang nagbabase sa hearsay or mere opinion, but his expert opinion. Under the rules on evidence po kasi, as an ordinary rule, ang opinion ay inadmissible as evidence. However, if it is spoken or if it is testified to by an expert witness, then it has great probative value. So good strategy from the prosecution.
But attorney, at this stage, has the prosecution merely authenticated the video, or has it already begun proving the impeachable offense itself? Diba? Parang what did the prosecution need to establish through their witness yesterday, which is NBI agent John Marcoleta?
Well, as to the authentication of the video, I am confident that yesterday they were able to establish that indeed it was an authentic video, it was an authentic recording. As to the question on whether or not it is sufficient to be considered as an impeachable offense, it is too soon to tell. However, as a guide to our countrymen, tatandaan po natin, no, ano ba ang ibig sabihin ng betrayal of public trust? In the case of Gonzales versus Ochoa, sinabi na po ng Korte Suprema, when you say betrayal of public trust as a ground for impeachment, these are acts which are less than criminal, or it can even be less than criminal, meaning hindi kailangan na ito ay magko-constitute ng isang krimen under the revised penal code or penal statutes. But this must be an act which constitutes gross unfaithfulness to or against public trust, tyrannical abuse of power, or any act which is of such gravity as to be tantamount to bad faith. So yun ang pwedeng maging guide ng mga senator judges at ng publiko na doon sa tanong na ito ba ay betrayal of public trust, yung di umano'y pagbabanta ni VP Duterte sa buhay ng Pangulo at ng kanyang asawa at kay Mr. Romualdez.
Attorney, another discussion yesterday was the prosecution just wanted to play the 2-minute excerpt from the press conference, and the defense wanted to play the entire 2-hour, 20-something minute video. From a legal standpoint, what is the significance of this argument?
Well, of course, for the prosecution side, they also want to, expedite the said argument so that they can move forward to their other articles, to their other arguments, and to their other witnesses. On the other hand, on the part of the defense, honestly, I don't see any plausible reason why they still want the full video to be played, because ano pa bang context? Ano pa bang context ang hinihingi natin? I believe even, non-lawyers would agree that hindi naman na kailangang i-play yung full video para malaman natin yung context. The 2 minutes or the 2 minutes and 18-second or 16-second video is sufficient. But of course, this will be subject to the discretion of the Senate impeachment court if they will play the said full video. In my opinion, there is no necessity for the playing of the full video. Baka mawalan pa ng gana yung mga kababayan nating manood at mabore at hindi na subaybayan ang pagpapatuloy ng impeachment trial na ito.
Well, today, attorney, is the third day already of the impeachment trial, and the defense will get a chance to cross-examine now the witness, John Marcoleta, the NBI agent. What are your expectations there? And if you were part of the defense, what kind of counter-arguments can you come up with in this particular article of impeachment?
Well, actually, just a reminder also, because I've watched the video, and of course the emotions of the lawyers are quite high. Mga tao rin naman ang mga abogado, right? That is why there were certain rules which were violated. There were certain statements which were hindi dapat sinabi or hindi dapat na nasabi doon sa trial na yon. So if I were part of the defense team, I will focus on the substance of the cross-examination, and I will not resort to, improper attacks or improper statements. However, that can also be a strategy kasi. But I just want to say that the defense needs to level up. The defense needs to level up. Why? Because yesterday, the prosecution through Attorney Ligutan truly established that they were so prepared. It was like watching a masterclass in litigation. And the prosecution was brilliant enough to choose the said lawyer to commence the said direct examination of their first witness. So to the defense team, level up, stick to the rules, stick to your prepared arguments so as to, enforce professionalism amongst your colleagues and the impeachment court, of course.
Well, Attorney, what do you make of the some senators speaking yesterday during the impeachment trial, particularly Senator Alan Peter Cayetano? Others would say that it looked like he was assisting the defense to articulate what they wanted to do, what they wanted to say during the trial at some point. So do you share the same sentiment? And from a legal standpoint, is that even right to do?
Well, that is one of the tragedies, right? Or one of the disadvantages of allowing these senator judges to interrupt or to even issue statements while the counsels are conducting their direct examination or cross-examination. I know that it is not prohibited. It is allowed by the rules. But as early as now, maybe the Senate can, remedy this loophole or disadvantage because yun nga ang mangyayari. Imbis na ma-focus ang atensyon ng ating mga kababayan doon sa sinasabi ng witness at sa pagda-direct examination or cross-examination ng counsels, mas na i-instill sa kanila kung ano yung opinion or kung ano yung sinasabi ng mga individual senator judges. And of course, as to his statements, well, I will give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he was just really concerned about all the parties concerned complying with the rules. Ako, dun din sa statement ni Senator Pia Cayetano, I actually agree with that. The councils must also be reminded na hindi pa tayo pwedeng magbigay ng mga closing statement or mga statements na similar to a conclusion of fact or a conclusion of law. So, sa punto na yon, I agree with the senator judge as well. Kailangan ay maging fair din sa defense at maging fair sa prosecution. But then again, repasuhin or i-remedy pa ng Senate yung kanilang rules because the proceeding has been becoming tedious and boring. Dapat ay mag-focus sila doon sa sinasabi ng witnesses at hindi maging, avenue na naman ito para magkaroon ng political color ang impeachment trial.
Attorney, another incident that had people abuzz yesterday was even before day 2 of the impeachment trial started. We already saw Vice President Sara Duterte inside the Senate giving a one-liner to the media and then leaving. What do you make of this? Is it strategy? Is it please give us your assessment of that particular incident.
I am also actually baffled as to the reason why she went there and gave just a 5-minute press conference. But again, to give her the benefit of the doubt, baka naman yung ating vice presidente kumbaga, 'di ba? Nagbe-baby steps. Baka nagpa-practice na na okay. Kaya ko naman palang humarap dito sa loob ng Senado. Baka naman nagpa-practice na siya and we are hoping na umattend siya eventually sa kanyang impeachment trial doon na sa proper venue na sana ay nandun na siya sa loob mismo nung lugar kung saan nagko-conduct ng trial. Because I don't see any other reason. Kung ang kanyang purpose ay i-meet ang kanyang defense team, pwede naman niyang gawin after the busy day of her defense counsel defending her yesterday. So, and also, baka ang purpose niya din ay pakita rin naman sa supporters niya na talagang kaya naman niyang humarap sa Senado. Nakulangan nga lang ako, dapat ay sinagad niya na, pumasok na siya doon mismo sa venue para present siya sa mismong trial niya.
But attorneys, still on the vice president, the prosecution seems to want to have her as a hostile witness in her own trial. Posible ba yun, attorney? And what would stop the vice president, if she were to become a hostile witness, from just invoking her right to self-incrimination?
Well, of course, if the rules of court, actually, it is explicitly stated under Resolution 39, the rules on impeachment trial, that the rules of court will, apply suppletorily. So kung ito ay i-invoke ng Senate Impeachment Court, in my humble opinion, no one can compel, actually, an accused in a proceeding like this to be a witness against himself or herself. That is a well-enshrined or ensconced principle under the Constitution. So tingnan natin ang magiging desisyon ng Senate Impeachment Court kung pagbibigyan ba nila itong hiling ng prosecution. Pero in my humble opinion, it would violate the right against self-incrimination of the accused if the rules of court will be suppletorily applied in this impeachment trial. Pero lambing ko kay VP Duterte, di ba? Huwag niya nang hintayin na magdesisyon pa ang Senate Impeachment Court. Lambing ko sa'yo, madam, harapin niyo po yung impeachment trial na ito at makakabuti ito para sa supporters niyo and para sa buong bansa na naghihintay ng mga sagot nyo sa aligasyon na ito. And kung wala naman po kayo talagang ginawang masama at inosente kayo, napakadali po na harapin nyo kahit sino pa at kahit sino pang magagaling na abogado. Hindi kayo matitibag if you are truly innocent of the crimes thrown or the alleged crimes thrown at you.
Well, we will see if the Vice President will take your lambing. But on another question, Attorney Torreon and other lawyers have already asked the Supreme Court to halt the impeachment proceedings and have already asked the Supreme Court as well, or questioned the Supreme Court of the authority of Senator Jesus Codero to preside the impeachment trial. So the question here is, can the Supreme Court intervene in an impeachment trial that is already underway?
In my humble opinion, that urgent manifestation filed by the said lawyer is a futile attempt. It is truly futile. Why? As early as the case of Baguila Jr. versus Alvarez, sabi ng Korte Suprema, when it comes to the Senate's internal rules, these rules are hardly permanent in character. May kapangyarihan ng Senado na hindi ito pansinin, i-modify ito, i-waive ito, or hindi ito sundin. Assuming arguendo that the Senate during the June 3, 2026 session violated its own rules, it's still within their power. Wala pa rin silang nilalabag. Unless there is a constitutional provision involved. But here in this case, ang inamyenda nila ay yung kanilang internal rules. So the Supreme Court, I am confident, will just, deny that said motion or will not act on it. Because what the Senate did was perfectly legal and was perfectly constitutional. So it is a futile attempt, that urgent manifestation with motion or whatsoever.
All right. Well, thank you as always for sharing your time and your insights with us. That was Attorney Jennifer Reyes.
Thank you.
All right, now don't go away because we still have more matters to discuss after this quick break. Keep it here on One News.
Good morning. You're still watching Morning Matters here on One News.
Now, several roads in Quezon City were flooded last night following a sudden downpour of heavy rain. Among the flooded areas was Barangay Botocan, where floodwaters reached knee level. In Luzon Avenue, some tricycles were forced to stop operations due to the flooding and heavy rain, but some still brave the floodwaters. In Barangay Pasong Tamo, floodwaters reached leg level, with some children seen wading through the water. Parts of Barangay Piñahan were also flooded. The floodwaters in the city later subsided.
Now, to help us understand the latest weather situation, let's bring in, once again, our meteorologist, Robert Speta. Here, Robert, should Metro Manila and other parts of Luzon expect similar downpours today?
Hey, good morning, Angela. I hope none of you got caught out there in those showers last night. My goodness. Heavy stuff here across the NCR. I even saw a report of a tornado just towards the north there across parts of Batangas. So, you know, it is part of this kind of the outer edges of our super typhoon located off here towards the east, of course, in Dai, which did enter the Philippine area of responsibility overnight. But you can see these bands. I mean, this is still 1,000 kilometers away. But look at the rain bands. And within that, you have that added instability with some of those stronger thunderstorms. So it's not a direct impact from this typhoon, but it's kind of indirect out here. And the thing is, this is going to be the case, especially even across Manila, the entire west coast of the Philippines. We're not going to be seeing a landfall with this storm system, but we do have those outer rain bands. So today, yet again, despite the fact this is still off here towards the east, a very powerful, strong storm system out here in the Philippine Sea, we're still going to be looking at some afternoon showers here on our Wednesday. A nice little northerly breeze, too, that's going to be coming onshore along the coastal areas. So that high temperature is 32. Heat index is going to be around mid-30s. But once those storms do set up, that is going to start to cool things off just a bit out here. But of course, all eyes are on this now super typhoon and where it's headed out here, Angela.
All right, Robert, how long are we expecting Bavi/Inday to stay in the Philippine area of responsibility?
Hey there, Jessica. Thank you very much. You know, it's going to be moving off towards north and west. This is the official track from the Philippine Meteorological Agency here. And yeah, it's kind of making that northwesterly pull, and they're expecting it to exit the PAR here as we go ahead overnight from the 10th heading into the 11th. So next, coming up here on Saturday morning. But the thing is, despite the fact this will be exiting the PAR at that point, we are still going to be looking at that monsoonal inflow behind it. So even though it exits, doesn't mean that the rough weather is over with. I mean, look at the massive size of this wind field here. And if you just project that off towards north and west, that is why we have signal force warning 1 in place already for Catanduanes, Isabela, Cagayan, the Babuan Islands, even over towards the Batanes here. So it's this kind of influence from our storm system as it heads off there towards north and west. So the big topic is behind it, that enhanced Tabagat. So, you know, we've seen those storms last night. We're going to be seeing more of that, especially as we pick up through Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and into Monday out here.
Robert, it's Pauline again. Could you tell us, are there other factors that could still enhance Super Typhoon Inday? And what is the trajectory of this Super Typhoon as well? And what other countries are at risk of feeling the wrath of this Super Typhoon?
Yeah, Pauline, you know, right now, this has a lot kind of going for it as far as intensification. I know that sounds terrible, but storms like very warm waters, the Philippine Sea, as I like to call the Philippine Sea effect. Sea surface temperatures out here are, they're hot tub water. I mean, we got them up like 35, 38 degrees in spots. It fuels things up. But on top of that, we have good outflow aloft. There's all these indications that this has maintained that intensity. There will be some weakening as it moves off towards the north. Just a little bit, but not a lot. In fact, as it gets closer to Taiwan, the southern Japanese islands there, that's where we're going to be looking at, you know, some pretty decent impacts from this. And I'm just trying to, like right here, here's a look at kind of where this is going to be coming on shore. All right, so Taiwan, we could be seeing, and this sounds a little ridiculous, I know, but I've seen this before. The east coast of Taiwan, these just steep mountains. Think of the Sierra Madres, but kind of double the height. This just basically acts as a car crash. Our storm system runs right into it, and it squeezes out all that moisture like a sponge. And they're looking at just an incredible amount of rainfall here in Taiwan. And then you got Ishigaki, which think of the Batanes Islands. It's a small island, gets hit by typhoons all the time. They're going to prepare up for this one, and I'm sure they're going to get through that just fine. But yeah, that's kind of the broader implications of this storm system as it pulls off here towards the north. But as far as here in the Philippines, we're kind of getting sideswiped by it. It has a massive wind field, but our big topic absolutely is going to be those local thunderstorms, just like we've seen last night. And you've seen the impacts out here across Manila, and also the heavy rainfall, which is going to be bringing that threat of flooding here, Pauline.
Robert, this is Cheska. You mentioned that it is slightly weakening, but by how much? Because we saw the kind of damage it unleashed in Guam and the Mariana Islands. So when you say it's weakening, what kind of damage, why? Why did that kind of damage happen in Guam and the Mariana Islands? And what kind of scenarios are we looking at as Bavi/Inday makes its way through?
So I say weakening, but it is by no means weak. And that's one thing I really do want to stress. I'm telling you, it's going from a Cat 5 to a Category 4 on the Saffron-Simpson scale. Still the top end of the scale. Now, the good news for the Philippines is that the inner core of this storm, and I'll pull the satellite picture here, the inner core of that is going to stay offshore, because when we're talking about these just destructive type winds, we're talking about this kind of very small area, only about 50 kilometers around that inner eye wall, while the tropical storm strength winds extend out from it. So what we could expect here across northern Luzon, the Batanes Islands, unless there is a serious shift in the track, is, solid, severe tropical storm strength winds, maybe Category 1, so just barely typhoon, but not super typhoon. What our friends out here across the Mariana Islands seen, especially in Rota, was that inner core. About 2,000 people live on that island. Power out. There's no water. Serious damage all across it. Trees are stripped right down. De-leafed. Now here, Cheska, is the kind of the miracle of it all. No casualties were reported there on Rota. And it goes to show, and this is, something we could do here in the Philippines as well, that when you get those warnings and you're told to hunker down and stay inside a good, safe structure, heed them. And it seems like that's what those 2,000 people on Rota did. And they made it through, damaged. They can pick up. But thankfully, no casualties were reported from that storm out here.
All right. Thank you, meteorologist Robert Speta.
Now stay tuned. More Morning Matters returns after a quick break.
Good morning, I'm Cheska Litton-Calao. You're still watching Morning Matters here on One News. As we know, Vice President Sara Duterte arrived at the Senate on Tuesday. Despite her appearance, she did not attend the second day of her impeachment trial. According to her defense team, Duterte was at the Senate only for a meeting with her lawyers. She later gave a one-sentence statement and declined to answer questions from the media.
Now, the first 2 days of the impeachment trial have been marked by legal clashes, procedural debates, and competing strategies from both the prosecution and the defense. And to discuss what these developments could mean for the case and the political landscape, we are now joined by political analyst Professor Ed Montayao. Good morning, Prof. Welcome to the program.
Hi, good morning. Good morning, everyone.
Okay, well, Professor, let's start off with the surprise appearance of Vice President Sara Duterte on day 2 of the impeachment trial. She did not show up in the trial, but she did appear in the Senate. What message do you think that sends to the public?
Well, everyone is aware, including the Vice President and, of course, her team of lawyers, that the impeachment is, while it follows, the stricture, the steps, the procedures of a legal proceeding, it is mainly a political instrument. No, it's a political instrument because it's an instrument of accountability, and therefore the trial is not only for the senator judges, to which is weigh in on the trial, on the evidences that will be presented. No, but mainly the general public. And, because the vice president, and this has been clear from day one, she made it clear that she's not going to attend any of the hearings. She didn't attend any of the preliminary hearings in the House of Representatives. And I don't think there's any intention on her part. And I suppose her lawyers also advised her not to attend the trial itself. But there has to be a way by which the public will see her to be still, and this is quite important, to be still composed and, unaffected by any and all of what's happening in the impeachment or in any of the allegations that's being thrown at her. But the public should understand that the measure of composure and the measure of the absence of guilt is precisely measured better in the court. Kasi that's precisely where we can see how she reacts in the actual situation where she's accused of all these allegations. And we know for sure, and this was shown by the evidences, the testimony, and the videos presented yesterday. Even if we assume, I'm just saying, even if we assume that there was no threat whatsoever that was made as far as the president, the wife of the president, and the former speaker is concerned. What is really revealing is the pattern of the kind of behavior, which is insidious to say the least. And this is rather disturbing as far as the vice president is concerned. If you have such a high official with that kind of thinking, that kind of behavior, my goodness, I don't know what else to say as far as this country is headed to.
But Prof, 2 days of the trial, 90 days to go, or 90 trial dates to go. But what is your overall assessment of the first 2 days of the impeachment trial? One is the, of course, legal procedure, and then second, that was yesterday, is all about the presentation of the article of impeachment 4.
Well, we've seen so much of what to expect. And again, I don't think there was any indication that the defense is going to veer away from its only defense, because I suppose that's the only way by which they can try and, convince the public that that the vice president is not guilty of any of the allegations, no? And that is only by way of technicality. And I'm sure everyone has noticed that there was no effect whatsoever, there's no, not effect, there's no effort whatsoever on the part of the defense to answer head on, no, directly, and disprove, no, the evidences that are presented. Instead, they're questioning whether the copies are true copies or these are photocopies. And syempre, pagdating sa social media, talagang yun ang kanilang ang tawag dito. That's their core competence, no? So, lalabas sa social media yung photocopy pala ngayon real copy na, without them understanding really why in the direct and cross examination there is a need to go back to the evidences presented and examine the documents that are being presented, and hence therefore yung sinasabi na yung photocopy is was this a truthful reproduction of the real document is enough. It doesn't say it's the true copy. All it's saying is that it truthfully represents the original copy and therefore, no, can be used as evidence. Yun yung punto dun eh. Pero pag tinignan mo sa social media, ang pinupukpok nila yung palang photocopy totoong kopya na hindi hindi ho ganoon. Iba yung purpose nung pagtanong kung ito ba ay photocopy. Tinatanong lang kung ito ay tunay na kopya para kung nasabi na ito ay tunay na kopya. Kaya nga may examination, kaya nga meron kang ekspertong iniimbita para patutuhanan kung totoo yung kopya, is for the court to determine whether this evidence is admissible or not. Yun ang punto nun. So sa madalit sabi, the fact that they spent so much time, no, arguing about it, no, and hindi ko na mabilang kung ilan yung objections ng defense counsel, no, na lahat naman overruled, no, they can only resort to what's this technicalities, because at the end of the day it's going to be difficult for them, and I'm still waiting how they're going to disprove any and all of the evidences that will be presented by the prosecution.
Prof, while it's still early in the trial, in the impeachment trial, we're only entering day 3. Obviously, public interest is very high. But so far, in terms of the stronger impact in the public's eyes, who do you see has it, the prosecution or the defense?
Well, it depends really from which vantage point you are going to make sense of the proceeding. Because, if you're a person who's really truly making sense, in other words, making sense of the whole proceeding, making sense of the exchanges, the discourses between the opposing counsels, the rulings made by the presiding officer, and most importantly, the evidences and the significance of the evidences that are presented, then most likely your judgment would be that the prosecution is able to present a rather solid case. And in the first place, it's not just a question of presentation of evidence. It's a question really whether there is evidence. There is object evidence, hindi lang testimonial evidence. Hindi yung kwento lang na nangyari ito, no? At yun yung lagi kong sinasabi, kasi sa social media makikita mo pa din yung mga malita, no? Na mali pa nga yung spelling yung mga malita na pinapamudmod, no? Na actually na hindi iniintindi. So doon tayo pupunta sa kabilang vantage point. If you're in that vantage point, you're only looking at what's this allegations as a smear campaign, as an attack on the Duterte, and you believe that the Dutertes are pristinely clean, and that they're well-meaning people, no? Na kulang na lang sabihin mo mga Diyos at mga anghel itong mga ito, wala, hindi mo, you will dismiss all these proceedings as what, still favoring, no? The Dutertes, particularly the Vice President. Yun lang opening statement ng Defense Counsel eh. Kulang na lang purihin nila na to high heavens, no, that it is the best opening statement so far. But anyone who actually understands, no, and actually observes carefully how proceedings are to take place, if you don't if you don't directly question or disprove an evidence or a claim, wala, mahina. So ganun ang kwan dito. Kaya nga at the end of the day, it's a question really whether people will really make an effort to understand it if they truly care about what's happening in the country. Because again, if I may emphasize it, and it cannot be overemphasized enough, that this is a question of accountability. Yung tinatawag nilang selective justice, selective man o hindi, justice pa din. No? Kaya nga natatawa na lang ako pagka ini-insist nila yung selective. Alam mo, talagang yung una-una lang yan eh. Hindi naman ibig sabihin hindi magiging accountable yung mga nakaupo ngayon. At sigurado ko, I can only say, wala namang kang mapipili dyan na talagang malinis. No? Kaya lang, nagkataon talagang gano'n. No? The reality of it all is that the one who is more exposed, no, is the one who will likely be caught his hands in the cookie jar, so to speak. So talagang una-una yan. Pero yung sasabihin mo na hindi makatotohanan at yan pinag-iinitan lang, nako, huling-huli na sa bibig, nandyan na eh. O paano pang sasabihin na walang sala?
Now, Professor, in terms of the presiding officer, how would you assess the performance so far of Senator Cheese Escudero? Was the majority right in electing him as the presiding officer of this impeachment trial? And how would you rate yung kanyang paghawak nitong trial and how he handled, let's say, yung heated exchanges between the prosecution and the defense and the rulings he has made so far?
Well, that's a good question because I, for one, when the news came out that he's being considered to be the presiding officer, I immediately quipped and even mentioned in public when I was asked if he would make a good choice. And I said, parang hindi maganda, no, because of what happened in the previous instance that he was Senate President and the way he handled the impeachment at that time, no. Has somewhat tainted his ability, even if he will just be a senator judge, no. But seeing as it is, you really need someone who understands the courtroom, how the presiding officer really has to know exactly how to direct, no, the exchanges in a courtroom, no, being heated exchanges, especially at that, no. So let's see. Sabi nyo nga mahaba-haba pa naman ito, but seeing as it is, it would seem that he was a good choice, no, a far better choice, no. You can imagine if Senator Alan Cayetano remained as Senate President and is now the presiding officer. No, yun lang pinaglalaban nilang magkapatid na Cayetano na hindi dapat si Senator Cheese. Already tells you a lot, no, about the playbook that they're still following and that simply has been failing all throughout. No, binabasa niya yung saligang batas. If you notice, no, when he was insisting that it has to be the Senate President that should serve as the presiding officer. And then biglang nabulol siya kasi hindi mo makikita talaga doon sa saligang batas sa Constitution that explicitly says that only the Senate President should sit as a presiding officer. Ang klaro sa saligang batas pagdating sa impeachment, it is simply the authority, the power, the province of the Senate to determine how it is going to be handled, how it is going to be, how it's going to proceed. In other words, the rules, including the determination of its officers, depends simply to the Senate itself. Ang isa lang yung hindi ako pabor sa presiding officer so far. Yung unang-una niyang sinabi kagad na 16 na boto. Tama naman yun, nandun sa saligang batas yun. If you are going to read the Constitution, the phrase all senators is, it would appear to be kind of clear. But if you are going to ask if there is a need to interpret the phrase all senators, doon ka magkakaroon ng question. Kasi when you say all senators, does it mean that all senators mean all senators that are present and therefore all senators that are functional? Because at the end of the day, especially wag mo na, kahit nga hindi mo na nga tanungin yung ang tawag dito, kahit na hindi mo nga tanungin kung functional sila o hindi, yun na lang simpleng moral authority, no? Kung ikaw ay humaharap sa ikaw ay akusado sa isang napakalaking kaso, no? Kaso ng pandarambong, at yung plunder hindi lang simpleng pandarambong, hindi yan technical malversation, no? Hindi yan simpleng graft and corruption case. Ayan talagang kumbaga malala pa sa mga ganyang kaso. And take note that the measure now is no longer preponderance of evidence, no, but ang tawag dito certainty, no, of guilt. And the fact that they were both charged in court means that the court has already seen the evidences against them, and therefore they are now behind bars. So yun na lang yung pagbatayan natin, no? Kung ikaw ba ay isang akusado, no? Meron ka pa bang pinanghahawakan para maging husgado, para maging judge, no, ng isa pang kaso? So yun na lang, no? At the end of the day, however you try to see it, technicality or otherwise, medyo mahirap yung logic
Pero
nila.
Prof, at some point we all know that whatever the outcome will be of this trial, it's going to shape the political landscape, no, of the Philippines. Do you think, or at least believe, that the senator judges would really decide based on the evidence presented, or they will prioritize public perception and their political ambition?
Neither, actually. Kasi, at least, especially as far as the minority is concerned, I'm sure, of course, everyone, including, especially you guys, no? I'm sure that you have taken note and seen and heard, no? How many of the senators led by, especially Senator Padilla for that matter, yung salita niya na kahit sunugin mo ako, mga amoy Duterte ako dito, no? And you have also heard the Senator Bongo, no, who at the outset, no, sabi niya talagang ayaw niya ng impeachment, and that he is very much supportive of the vice president, no, being for obvious reasons, no, being a Duterte servant, no, for a long time, no. I'm sure, of course, you remember how the Cayetano sisters and how they remain, how they keep on acting, no, and all of them. The fact that they remain together in the same alliance, no, you can only expect that they will definitely vote for acquittal. In fact, if you are going to ask me, I'm not expecting a conviction here anymore, precisely because they simply don't have the votes. No, even if we say, for the sake of argument, that evidences are very strong, no, and the prosecution is able to make its point, hindi rin naman nila pakikinggan yan unless, and I'm still of course, we still have yet to see, no? If you remember, in the House of Representatives, before they did the preliminary investigation, there were pronouncements made by, members of the House who are very much identified with the Dutertes, no? If you remember, Representative Ronnie Puno, who is the leader of the National Unity Party, made the pronouncement they're not going to support the impeachment. If I remember it right, no less the Cagayan de Oro Representative Rufus Rodriguez, one of the stalwarts as well in the House, also said that he's not going to support the impeachment. Richard Gomez also made a similar pronouncement, if I'm not mistaken. And everyone, including their allies, no, were surprised when they voted in favor of
Yeah.
impeachment to be transmitted in the Senate. Now, I mentioned that because even if many of the House of Representatives who were allies to the Duterte originally stated that they're not going to support the impeachment, when they heard the extent of the evidence as being presented to them, they had to change tack, no? Because at the end of the day, you have to be you have to be able to answer to your constituents why you voted for such. Now, doon papasok yung pangangatanong mo, will they be voting on the basis of public perception? At yun ang problema. It would seem that many of the senators, especially those in the minority, have not been really making sense, no, of how it is on the ground. Kasi kung ang basis mo yung social media, talagang isipin mo malakas pa sila kasi talagang organized sila eh. Social media talagang napakaingay niyan, no? And time and again we've been saying, no, in the film, we've been monitoring how things are in the social media. And many of the posts really, especially in favor of Duterte, especially posts that intently divides the nation, yung mga posts na taga Luzon ka pala, no, so diyan ka na lang, no, kasi magiging hiwalay ang Mindanao and so on and so forth. Pag tingnan mo yung mga posts na yan, hindi naman lahat yan galing dito sa Pilipinas eh. In fact, karamihan ng mga vloggers ng mga Duterte nasa Beijing, supported by Beijing and so on. Now, I mention that precisely because it gives the appearance that the Dutertes remain strong. But if you go to the ground, and even if you look at the surveys, sabihin mo yung surveys, nasa 40% pa yung popularity, yes, that's still a big number. But to be honest, I'm not really sure whether the number is 40%. Because at the firm, we're also monitoring how it is on the ground. And to our assessment, it is only Davao now, Davao City, not even the rest of Mindanao, that the Dutertes remain undisputed, no? Talagang remarkable numbers pa. Pero yung numbers na yun, nasa 60% and above na lang. So kung talagang siseryosohin ng mga senador at ang magiging batayan nila, wag na yung ebidensya, yun na lang kung anong gustong mangyari ng mga tao sa baba. Yung talagang nag-umiintindi at talagang may malasakit sa bayan, hindi yung mga bulag, no? Palagay ko, i-consider nilang mabuti yung ebidensya.
All right. Thank you for your time and insights, political analyst Professor Edmond Tayao.
Salamat po.
So of course today pa rin, the trial will continue. Day 3, there will be the defense will be cross-examining the NBI agent, Mr. Kalilong, for authentication of the video.
So what will happen pala today, is cross-examine ng defense, and then makakapag-direct examine ulit yung prosecution, and then another round of cross-examination from the defense. So it's gonna be another lengthy day.
Yes. This is only day 3.
Yeah, day 3 pala.
Of 92.
Plus, itong, as I've said earlier, itong article of impeachment na ito, they allotted 11 days. So, antayin natin 11 days bago nila matapos ng article of impeachment
Kasama
na
ba
ito.
yung day 1 doon? Baka hindi, no?
Hindi,
Kasi
hindi
naman
yata.
tinapel.
Oo. Basta ang alam ko lang, 11 days ang allotted dito. At pagdating doon sa unexplained wealth, yun yung pinakamarami, di ba? Alright. That wraps up today's episode of Morning Matters. I'm Angela Lagunsad Castro.
We hope we've given you just the right start to your morning. I'm Cheska Liton-Calao.
Let's make the day matter. I'm Pauline Verzosa, and we'll see you again tomorrow.
Kapatid, we are one news.
All sides.
All the time.